Hello Corkies, my longtime go-to mid-shelf bourbon has always been Buffalo Trace, but we're going to compare it and see how it is to the Bulleit Bourbon, see what differences and similarities there are, and see which one is best for you. Stay tuned. Hello everybody, welcome back to corkandjava.com. We all know you're supposed to get joy and fascination from even the little things in life that most people take for granted. So here we're going to expand and enrich your experience with all of your favorite beverages through coffee, wine, and other beverage reviews and how-tos. So if that sounds interesting, smash that subscribe button down below and hit that little bell too so you're notified when all of our future videos come out. Alright. Today, it's head-to-head Buffalo Trace versus Bulleit Bourbon. Buffalo Trace, as you know, comes from the Buffalo Trace Distillery in Frankfort, Kentucky, while Bulleit Bourbon is made at the Four Roses Distillery in Lawrenceburg, Kentucky. So let's talk about some similarities between these two. They're both relatively young bourbon. You know, minimally, bourbon has to be aged 2 years. These are roughly about 10 years. We don't know the exact date on each bottle. Some can vary, presumably maybe between 8 and 12 years, and they're pretty much blends. They're not single barrel sourced, except for Eagle Rare, which is the same mash bill as Buffalo Trace. That one is minimum 10 years, and that's almost all single barrel. Once they get to the end of a barrel and it fills a bottle like halfway, they cap it off with the next barrel. But if you've got a bottle of Eagle Rare, then you're basically getting Buffalo Trace single barrel. And there are some differences there. On our channel, we also have a Buffalo Trace versus Eagle Rare video that you should check out as well. But today, we're going a little bit different. So the Bulleit here, it's got a very high rye content, whereas Buffalo Trace has a very low rye content. So if you're a rye fan, you really might like the Bulleit. Of course, they got a really great rye version of this as well, but this is definitely gonna have less of that rye spiciness that rye fans are gonna be all about. There is so much we can get into between these two bourbons, and really, if you want a lot of information about these, you can Google it yourself. You don't have to listen to me ramble on about how, you know, Buffalo Trace and Bulleit, they both use natural spring water that is filtered through the natural limestone in Kentucky, all that stuff, or all the different variety of cool traditions or practices that each distiller uses to make their bourbon and all the history behind it. That's all online, and I'm sure you don't want to hear me ramble. You want to hear me compare the aromas, the colors, and the taste of these two bourbons. So that is what we're going to do. So coming in at about roughly 85% corn mash, with very little rye and some barley in there, we got Buffalo Trace. Comparing the colors, well, let me tell you what the mash bill for the Bulleit is. It's almost 2/3 corn, 1/3 rye, with a little bit of barley mixed in there, but it's very high rye, where this is very low. So color, I like to look at the color at a white object, something that I can get a neutral look. The Buffalo Trace is, to me, slightly darker in color, and it could get a little darker because they do filter it through charcoal that is supposed to help smooth it out some. That can impart some darker color to it. Maybe the oak barrels they use are a little bit more charred. There's a number of ways why it could be a little bit darker, but anyway, the colors are pretty similar. They're really nice golden bourbon colors to me. I really like it. So let's go with a little sniffy sniff on the Buffalo Trace. And by the way, I don't tend to like Glencairn glasses as much as I like these stemless, small stemless wine glasses. I feel like I can pick up a lot more flavor and aroma in these than a normal Glencairn. They also hold a little bit more too, which is nice if you are wanting to have a little bit of a big pour. So that's why I'm not using Glencairns today. So I get a lot of citrus and orange up front. And a lot of sweetness on the nose as well, like a little bit of honey on there. Now let's sniff the Bulleit. I do get a lot of sweetness on the nose, but it's more like a maple molasses type sweetness. And I know it's not a particularly sweet bourbon in general, but the aroma, the bouquet, is definitely coming across very sweet for the Bulleit. So now let's give them a little taste here. I love just how smooth Buffalo Trace is for being relatively young, 10-ish years aged. They do a really good job with the flavors and just making it really pleasant on the palate. It has a lot, still very sweet honey. I get a lot of citrus still coming through, a little bit of vanilla on the back end from the oak. But overall, still love this bourbon. So now let's get into the Bulleit, which I'm expecting a little bit more bite. It's got a higher ABV to it as well. It's at, I think, 45%. Yep, 45% ABV or 90 proof. Whereas Bulleit is at 80 proof or 40%. Actually, no. They are both 45% alcohol by volume. I did not know that. I should read the labels more often. So they're both the same proof, so that's good for our test. One shouldn't taste more hot than the other. And if it does, we know there's other things going on rather than just ethanol levels. So yeah, here's the Bulleit. So I do get that maple up front, that sweetness up front, but it quickly turns to a little bit more rye bite of nutmeg. It's got some like cedar, a little bit of leather, and a little just spice to it, which I really like. I've been really getting into ryes lately, and this might be like someone's gateway into rye. If rye's a little bit too much of a punch for you, and you like sweeter bourbons, or you like Irish whiskeys, stuff like that that are pretty mild, and you kind of want to explore more, before you jump right to a rye, this would probably be a great gateway into that arena. So it's not quite as smooth as the Buffalo Trace, but I'm going to attribute that to the mash bill and the rye. It's not a ethanol kind of harshness to it. It is definitely more on the mash bill and the higher rye percentage that is giving it just a little bit more bite. All right, so now I'm gonna add just a little bit of water, just to see if it opens it up, changes any flavors of both of these. I'm just trying to get the levels about the same. All right, so here's just a little bit of water. Just put it, drop in each. And a lot of times adding just a little bit of water. This is reverse osmosis water. Should be 100% pure. though I don't think that really matters too much because we're not putting much in. It tends to open up whiskeys like this. Oh wow. Definitely even bigger sweet pop coming out of the aroma. Yeah, I love how just like a teeny bit of water really just opens up. I wouldn't say the flavor profile's changed at all. It's just exaggerated, and it's great. I love it. All right, now let's see how it changes the Bulleit. It actually toned down the sweetness and cranked up a little bit more of the rye, which, I don't know, I kind of like it. I like that rye kick, especially that spicy nutmeg note on there. And you still get a little sweetness, mapley coming through, which is nice. So I really can't say I like one more than the other. If I had to pick, just drinking neat, just, you know, sipping maybe on the rocks or something like that, Buffalo Trace is going to be a nice, smooth, sweet, delicious cup. But if you're a fan of like old fashions, Manhattans, classic cocktails with bourbon, this is definitely a great go-to bourbon for those classic drinks. If a full rye is a little bit too much for you, because a lot of the old classic drinks use rye whiskey, because back before Prohibition, rye was aplenty and they made most of their whiskeys out of rye back in the day. So if you're going for that classic taste, this is definitely closer to what those classic cocktails are supposed to taste like than your little bit more sweet, very corn heavy mashed Buffalo Trace. But they are both excellent mid-tier whiskeys. If you're looking to get a bourbon and you don't know which one to get, I would probably start with Buffalo Trace, although they are often very hard to find, and depending on where you live, they can definitely be tricky to get a hold of. So give Bulleit a try too. They're both excellent. I would want to know, leave a comment down below with what your favorite is between the two, if you've had either of them, or just in general, what's your favorite mid-tier, mid-shelf bourbon in that about $30, $35 range, which both of these are in that price range. So they're comparable in price. Definitely check us out online, guys. We got a Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, and newly Instagram. So definitely check us out online. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys there. So stay tuned and bottoms up.